It's always interesting when my kids come in and say, wow, we talked a few hours last night and it was so fascinating and it went everywhere. Little threads that got pulled through a variety of topics. So because I want to hear more about it, we're rehashing what we call a messy conversation. It's the kind of conversation that really started us on our podcast journey. So welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
I'm Mom. And this is a little different format, a little bit more free range, if you will. So, what started this midnight convo last night?
Well, the first thing that I came in and said was an excerpt from a Matt Levine article talking about AI companies, but we're going to save that for a little while. What really got the wheels turning, I feel like, was the last bullet point on a summary from a headline that I read on my news app. And it was talking about how with the economic data that came out last week, I guess by the time this airs 2 weeks ago, there has been a pretty significant increase in the expectation that rates are going to stay higher for longer. Interest rates, borrowing money in general is going to be harder, and that Trump wants us to cut rates. And his argument was that growth, economic growth and prosperity can combat inflation just as effectively as interest rates can. And so I came in and I said to Callie,
do you want the good news or the bad news?
yeah, not quite. I think it was, you're not going to like what I'm going to say. And then you are going to like what I'm going to say after that.
And then he asked, which one do I want first? And then gave me the one that I didn't want first.
Sounds like Cole.
Because here's the thing. He's right. Economic growth can combat inflation as effectively as interest rates. But that's conditional.
I started to say, there's a lot of things that have to happen for that to work.
I mean, really, the main thing that has to happen is that the corporations who are borrowing the vast majority of that money have to deprioritize bigger and bigger profits.
Yeah.
Because we exist in an inflationary system. We don't have anything that backs our money. It's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. So if we need more, we just print more.
And but let's break that down really quick. The full faith and credit of the United States government. When you really because I said so.
Yes.
That's all that it really is. Can you imagine going to a bank and say, hey, I have a business plan. I want to do this. I need this loan. What kind of collateral are you going to put up? I'm awesome. Give me the money. But that's kind of what happened here. And we got into some of the history of it, which I thought was so interesting. And I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of people, and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with this in any capacity, I'm just bringing it into the conversation. A lot of people talk about how, quote unquote, great the United States was in the 1950s. And normally my response is, great for who? And so I don't love that. But Cole started talking about World War II and winning, quote unquote, World War II and
saving the world.
Can you go into that a little bit?
I mean, I'm talking about World War II all day, but
why do you think that? Why did the United States save the world? How?
Why or how?
Yes.
Well, why is because our allies were kind of getting their asses kicked and we didn't really feel like speaking German.
Okay. And how?
Pure manufacturing power.
So it led me to a couple of additional questions that I just kind of sat here going, I've never thought about that before. And so we were talking, and Cole, there was another article that was making predictions about what they think is going to happen in the future, and another world war, who's going to come out, what's going to be the cost, like all of these things. And we didn't get into the minutia of any of that. But I started
Because I didn't
thinking,
know the minutia, because
yeah.
I'd heard it from a different podcast from two stand-up comedians who kind of they were regurgitating something. I was regurgitating something that was regurgitated to me that was regurgitated from a book.
So, but that it started an interesting conversation because I'm really curious. The United States came out very much on top after World War II. We are the heroes. We are awesome. And started really acting like it, if you will.
Don't you think that's because until we got involved in that war, the Allies were losing?
What do you mean? Because until we, I need more there.
Well, I mean, there was a war going on that we weren't involved in, right?
Yes.
And
Well, we weren't directly involved, but yes.
we weren't directly in. We had not declared war. We were not sending troops. We may have been spending money on it, but we weren't directly involved in it. But when we did get involved and we did send our troops and we did have the Eisenhowers and MacArthurs and those people leading all of that, the tenor of the war changed to the Allies' advantage. So don't you think that's where that came from?
Or what came from?
That whole idea of America as the savior.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Unquestionably.
Yeah, but I'm going into the ripple effects of it. So I started questioning, let's say World War II starts tomorrow and who that may be, whether we're going against China or Mexico or Russia, whoever it may be. We're helping pitch in Europe, whatever it is. Wherever that happens, can we still do you still see us claiming that top spot? Do you still see us
You do?
dominating?
Not sure about that. And I don't want to,
am.
well, that's interesting.
That's how
Because
I felt.
how I feel.
Mhm.
I feel like we have alienated ourselves in a lot of ways. I think that we have
So,
proven in a number of instances, Afghanistan, maybe Iran, that we're not.
here's the thing. You need to look at the types of wars that we have lost. We don't
Okay.
win when we go playing for hearts and minds. But when you tell our boys, go kill Hitler, they go kill Hitler. There's a big difference in going in nation building and winning a world war are two very different things. We have the capability to win wars. You don't
Because we have the
capability to
firepower.
nation build because you can't change people's culture through military force. It just doesn't work like that.
Legislated morality.
Why are
Exactly.
we in Iran? Wasn't that supposed to be a culture change, or even Afghanistan? Wasn't that supposed
Well,
to
that's a
be?
regime change. It's a little bit different.
Okay.
But I agree with you. Here's the thing. If the mission was take out Iran, not a big deal. If the mission is free Iran and turn Iran into a United States in the middle of the Middle East, that's not going to happen. That's kind of like saying, take Kansas and turn it into a new China in the middle of the United States. It just isn't going to work.
I have been to Manhattan, Kansas, which is known as the Little Apple. They are not the same. But so you're questioning how America got its reputation.
Kind of. I'm questioning why everybody believed it.
Why everybody believed what?
That we were the champions.
Because we were.
Fine. But are we still those same champions today?
See, I question that because I think part of that being the champion was because we had those people in place who made a difference, who believed in something so strongly that they could pull America together, the people together, and our allies together, and fight for a cause. I don't know that we could do that today.
You're right to an extent. But and one of the things that we talked about last night, Callie, World War II, we didn't have income taxes. It was crowdfunded. They took war heroes who did badass stuff on the battlefield. They sent them home. They put them on parade floats, and they said, "Hey, we're trying to kill Hitler. Will you help us?" And they sold war bonds. That's how they funded it.
That's true.
So I think that in some ways that was a rallying cry in and of itself for a nation. We all need to be part of this. We all need to pitch in to help take care of this. And so I think that because, like Cole said, it was crowdfunded by the American people, not by big, huge corporations necessarily, and not by the government, and not by these other entities. To a point, yes, fine. But the grassroots movement of it all, these are our boys that we have to protect. You've got women who are going to work for the first time to go build equipment and things like this. I mean,
factories.
Yes. And so I think that it rallied people in an interesting way. And I started thinking about whether or not we're capable of rallying that way again.
I think we need to identify, like I was talking about a minute ago, the differences in objectives. Because you go and you look at Vietnam, you look at Afghanistan, and then you go and you look at World War II. World War II, the objective was go win. Period. Go win.
You have to stop. You have to stop the evil, which is how it was considered.
I don't think that we're very good at that today.
At what?
I don't either. But I think that, again, stop and think about the names that you can still immediately recall from World War II. It's the Roosevelts and the Prime Minister of England. I mean,
Churchill.
Thank you. Those names are still with us today. Those men are still admired. Icons today. I don't know that we have anybody like that. I mean,
because the objective has changed. The objective isn't to be a champion. It is not to go win. It is go find go get oil. Go set up voting booths. Go try and change these people into something that they're not go and beat them.
Is that
if you cannot win something, how can you be the champion? How can you be a champion at all?
Yeah.
If there is no win, if winning is impossible, how can you be a champion?
Is that growth?
What do you mean?
Maturity?
Yes.
Going from, hey, we're going to free
Cole,
the world to...
You're talking about kind of the marching orders changed, the goals changed, but there's a difference in brute force and outsmarting someone. There's a difference in brute force and collaborative effort.
Diplomacy.
Sure, all of those things. And I think to some extent you can sit here and say, oh, well, the United States exercised brute force. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just wondering if you would consider this growth that, what's that saying about...
It's bureaucracy.
No, not what I'm talking about. Yes, but not what I'm talking about here. Why use a sledgehammer when you need a ball peen? Like, why use a machete when you need a scalpel? Anybody can swing a machete. Anybody can use a scalpel, but effectively without the person they're using it on bleeding out, debatable. And so I just wonder, like, that's based on learning, right? I have learned to wield my tool in a better, more effective, useful way. And I wonder if that counts and constitutes growth.
You think this is refinement?
The analogy and where you're coming from, but I don't think that it applies. Let me give you a different analogy. You're a surgeon. You can use the scalpel. You can use the scalpel very well. You're specifically a heart surgeon. Your job is to cut people's chests open and perform open heart surgery. You are now told by the director of your hospital, you're still an open heart surgeon, but you have to have your hands tied behind your back. You have to be blindfolded. You can only hold the scalpel in your mouth and you can't cut them open.
Why do you put all of those
Caveats.
caveats in place?
Because those are the caveats that have been put in place for the military might of the United States in the last 60 years since World War II, which is why they can't win.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Probably perspective.
I don't know that it's either, because most of the wars that we've been in since then, we shouldn't have been there. So
That's a perspective again, too, though. Isn't
Is
that
it?
isolationism?
Should we have gone to Vietnam? Should
No,
we have
but
been in
again-
Afghanistan?
No, but again, isn't that isolationism?
But I think
And-
that we also have different hindsight that we didn't have at those times.
Right. But if the rules of engagement in Afghanistan had been go in, do you think the Taliban would be there now?
Ms., I don't know the answer to that.
No, they wouldn't, because we could blow everything up and call it a day. It would be fast and messy.
War is.
Machete versus a
It
scalpel.
wouldn't be any more messy than spending 20 years there wasting billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars.
Agreed. But again, machete versus a scalpel. Wipe them off of the face of the planet because we have decided that they are not worthy of being alive anymore, versus go make change to help better their future. What we consider better for their future.
But you have to
again, I understand what you're saying. We are getting, I feel like, a little bit away from the track we were trying to go down.
Yeah.
But we're making two different arguments for two different things, I feel like. Like, I understand what you're saying. I don't think we should have been in Afghanistan. I don't think we should have been in Iraq the second time as long as we were. I think that the way that Vietnam as a war was waged was poorly executed by and large. But none of that really matters.
Right, yeah, not at all what my point is. So you said something last night, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was because it was 1:00 in the morning and I don't remember it all. But something about things started changing at the end of World War II.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what those things consisted of.
I mean, I honestly can't really either. But if we're sitting there talking about, so really what happened kind of during and post World War II is our monetary system changed. The Federal Reserve System came around.
Yes. Okay, like,
If we're talking about on the home front.
Yes. Like, hold on and don't zone out for just a minute, because this is actually really, really fascinating, talking about the creation and the design of the Federal Reserve System, which in my personal opinion, I'm just like, okay, don't care, moving on. But once you start thinking about, we talk about it often, the why behind things, the why matters. Cole started explaining to me how the Federal Reserve System was set up and the intentions that it had.
Very broad strokes.
Super broad. But can you give us a little bit of that?
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. We had a monetary system that was backed by gold. It says, hey, $1 US is equivalent to this much gold. It had a physical commodity that had a set price attached to it. And then we said, we don't have enough gold, so we don't have enough money. So what are we going to do? Well, it's no longer backed by gold. Now it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. And guess what the United States government just did? We just saved the freaking world. So our full faith and credit is pretty damn good.
It carries weight.
Not to mention, at the time, we had just built one of the most powerful manufacturing bases, probably unquestionably the most powerful manufacturing base on the face of the planet at the time.
We were really feeling ourselves.
Yeah. And then we won. Now, what do you do with all of that manufacturing? Do you just let it rust? No. You put it to work.
So
So what does that have to do with the Federal Reserve System, though?
Well, the Federal Reserve System is fairly beneficial to private corporations, even public corporations, because they now have the ability to expand and contract the money supply, making it easier or harder to buy money. And guess what? When you have money that's not backed by anything, there can be infinite of it. And what do corporations want? Infinite money. That's the point.
Yeah. And so this is where my gears started turning. And again, Cole, I'm not trying to get into every single war and litigate that on this podcast. Futile would be an understatement. But you started talking about the people who were designing the Federal Reserve System and what was going into all of that. And there were people who were really excited about this. This is how we move forward. This is how we sustain. This is going to be good. These are the things that we have to do to keep it good, to keep it working the way that we're expecting it to. But nobody, from what I can tell, and I don't know, but from what I can tell, nobody ever said, well, what if this happens?
What happens when we're not the good guys anymore?
What happens when we
But
Didn't
we've
just
always been
save
the
the
good
world.
guys.
What's that, Mom?
But
said
nobody
that-
asked the questions. We're just going to continue down this path. And beyond the good guys or the bad guys, we continued down this path that evolved and changed with technology and with community and with all of these other tools that weren't taken into consideration. I can instantaneously get and reach somebody across the world right now. Callie, I don't have to have special tools for that. I just have a phone.
Yeah.
Or the internet. And so we started talking about how nobody was asking these questions. And Cole, kind of like you did a minute ago, Mom, Cole goes, you had all of these great men who were really proud of themselves and had stuff to be proud of and were building all of this cool shit and doing all of these cool things and walking around flexing their muscles, pointing to the gun show, pointing at each other and were so proud of themselves. I get the sense that they didn't really ask, well, what about this?
And this is where I got into a couple of different analogies with Callie and her answers. Callie answers. She's a little bit of an outlier. But one of the examples was, you're 16 years old, you've just won a basketball tournament, and you walk out of the gym and your dad hands you the keys to a supercar.
Do you
get
know
in
the
that
value
supercar.
of that supercar? Are you going to treat it with respect? Are you going to be careful when you're driving down the street to not hit anything? This is your first
Do you
car.
worry about the potholes? No,
Definitely
you get
not.
in and crank that baby over and put the pedal to the floor.
I know enough about cars, especially supercars, to know
Now,
yes, to know better. And Cole goes, Callie, no one is thinking about the potholes. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I drive a car that has 0 sidewall tires. I worry about the potholes while there are cars between me and them. And he's like, Callie, that's not everybody, which is fine. Totally fine. But the point being,
it's definitely not a relatively young nation who just saved the world.
right. But there was nobody to worry. Everybody was so proud of what had been accomplished by themselves, by their peers, by the people around them, by their communities, by their government, their country, their states. Like everybody was so proud.
I think it was probably less a lack of foresight and more hubris. We just saved the world. There's no way this could go wrong.
Yes.
I was
Our
just
credit can
thinking
never
the
run
same
out.
thing.
Yes. And so I just started thinking, what do you like who worries about these things? Is there somebody that this is their job? Like I'm consciously thinking about the concept in World War Z, which I know I'm tangenting, fine, whatever, stick with me. About the 11th man the concept, the theory of the 11th man, if all 10 men say, yes, this is a good idea, yes, this is a good idea, it is the job, the sole purpose of the 11th man, the 10th man, I think is what it is actually, whichever, the 10th man, it's his job to say, no, what else could be going on? What else could be put at play?
Yeah.
What else could take place and happen? And so my question, Mom, and I kind of thought I was going to get in trouble for it and I didn't. And so maybe I'll get in trouble tonight. I don't know. But my question is, Cole's talking about all like they were so proud of themselves. And I said, who is they? And he starts listing off Patton and these presidents and like all these men. And I was like, do you think if it was a group of women, somebody would have said, hold on, I have another question about the next little bit.
You think a woman would have asked that question?
I have no idea. I think it's an interesting thing to think about because I think that we have different perspectives.
Sure.
And I mean, Cole and I had this whole conversation about which one of us worries more than the other. Who would you say worries more than who worries the most?
You.
Me?
Yeah. Because I don't think Cole cares.
So it's so funny to me. It took us a second. I was pretty quick. It took Cole a second. But I think we came to the conclusion that Cole worries more than I do.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
About
Different. We worry about totally different things.
Totally different things. And so he kept trying to pull me in saying, Callie, you worried about the potholes? Like with the supercars, like you're worried about the potholes. And I'm like, that's because to me, there is a monetary value on these things. So Cole's like, Callie, I would never, ever worry about a pothole. I've never sat in my car going, oh, I hope I don't hit a pothole. Nobody does that. And I was like, I do. Because there's a cost associated with not having that worry. And the same thing happening, the same outcome has a very different cost to me than it does to Cole. Cole, what's it going to take you to replace a tire?
$50.
And then we got into the time of it and everything. I am most likely driving around for work. So my whole day is being put on hold. I am not actively making money because I am spending money. Cole can go buy a new tire, let's call it a brand new tire, for about $100. I have to find a special place in town to go seek this very specific tire that is then going to cost me $626. I know this because I have done it within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I think that yes, Cole, I do. I worry about the pothole because it has a greater impact on me. And so we started talking about who worries the most and why each of us worry. At the end of the day, and I know that this may come off as weird coming from the sunshine of the group, but I am pretty selfish with what I'm worrying about. I am not worrying if Cole's going to go and pass this test that he's taking for work. I will be proud of him and celebrate him, but I'm not thinking about that.
You also just know I'm going to ace it.
But I also just know you're going to ace it, which is kind of the point. And so I don't spend time like mom is going to think about it. This is her son. This is what he wants to do. And I'm so excited. And it's not that she doubts your skills. It's that she wants the best for you. And she wants you to achieve it in a way that you're proud of and can carry through, right? She's worried about those things. I'm
worried about his reaction. I'm not worried about him taking the test.
Right.
I'm worried about, is this the next step that he needs or wants?
Which is my whole freaking point about why I asked if there were women in the room, would they have asked different questions? Because we worry about different
on which
things.
women.
I agree totally.
It does depend on which women. I mean, there's a whole thing about, would we even have wars if women were in charge? Because I think we just look at, and that's making some wild assumptions about things.
Yes,
but
we still would.
You think we still would?
Yes.
I think it would look different.
I think they would look different.
Sure.
I think it would look very different.
There would still be wars, and they would still be bloody, and it would still be war.
There would be catfights.
We started talking about how many, Cole, did we go back the last 6 or 7 presidential administrations talking about the amount of darkness that they perform, like literally under the cloak of darkness out in the world, outside of this country and beyond. And you put it really well. The current administration is doing these things. They're more overt about it than may have been taken place in the past. Yes. So I have no doubt in my mind that there are things that every single administration has done that I, Callie, wouldn't necessarily agree with or be proud of or excited about, would be repulsed by. So I started wondering whether or not, is that a marketing thing? We have to do these things because this is what it takes for the survival of the world and or this country. So they have to be done maybe this way, maybe not. But so I think everybody is responsible.
Waterboarding comes to mind because that was something with Afghanistan and 9/11.
Guantanamo Bay and how it was handled, those prisoners and or, people who we've kidnapped.
And the argument there was that it was necessary.
Captured.
I mean, how different is that as a perspective, though?
Right.
Like, because here's the thing. If somebody came and hurt you, either of you, I had no problem with waterboarding. Don't care. But you hurt my family. I'm going to hurt you back.
But that has to do with your connection to the wronged. And so I think somebody will always have that connection to the wronged because we were all born. Whether they're still alive, no idea. But there's somebody out there to worry about them.
Why war is eternal.
Which is why war is eternal. Yes, fine. But I think that when you have different perspectives in the room, Cole may say, hey, waterboarding is totally cool with me because of what they did to mom. I might say, okay, but let's put some rules on that. Let's put some parameters. Let's have some proof before we go. Like maybe, sure. And so we talked about bureaucracy and what that all means and how there is no, I suspect y'all are going to kill me and eat me alive for this. So let's make this a short. That there is not an administration in the history of the United States that every single person would be 100% in line with everything that they did.
Oh, absolutely not. Totally agree. No, you're exactly right.
That's free will and attitude and
thought,
partisanship and
yes. And we are going to ebb and flow into how much or how little we approve or disapprove of various administrations and various pieces within each administration. Like
actions taken within them, yeah.
Yeah, but I did start to think of it, and I'm thinking about it as literal light versus darkness, and looking at each of those in Callie's opinion, very professional opinion. How much light does each administration have in conjunction with their darkness?
Recently, a lot less.
Yeah.
Wait, a lot less darkness?
No, a lot less light.
Oh, I was going, what? And see, I'm sitting, why do you say that?
Because
I've read about the things they've done.
Because we're watching it happen in real time. So this is where we got into.
You think the things that this administration is doing across the world are bad?
You think they are classified as light?
You just think they're bad because you know about them.
I think there's more to it than that. Ignorance is bliss. Yes. Absolutely. We cannot know everything because we, as human beings, don't have the capacity to absorb it all, to take it all in, to weigh it all in. No, you don't. And you can see it. There have been all kinds of articles about each of these presidents going into office and coming out and the stress that they endured. And still, it's
through
one
the
man.
Early 2000s, that was like a weekly news segment. How much is Obama? How much has Bush aged this week?
Yeah. How many grays are there now compared to 2 weeks ago, 6 months ago, 3 years ago? And so I'm looking at this in terms of darkness or light, and we could look at every single administration and determine what Callie thinks. But what Callie thinks is going to be different the skew will be different than what Mecca thinks versus what Cole thinks versus what this person over here in this lifestyle and this perspective thinks. Like, that's all going to vary and change. And I started thinking about the people that I want to surround myself with.
This is super random, but it came to my thought here. So, when you take like a survey for work and there's 5 options, there's like strongly agree all the way to strongly disagree, with usually 3 to 5 additional, like it's a spectrum. Do you ever answer anything but the extremes?
Yeah. Do you not?
Oh, no, I definitely have answers that are in the middle because
okay.
everything is on a spectrum.
Yeah.
Do you answer more of them on an extreme than not, or are you generally more towards the middle?
It depends on what it is. If you want
Because
to
there
talk
are some
a
people
quiz
that
about...
only answer on the extremes.
Sure.
And there are some people who just go straight down the middle.
So I'm applying this to online dating. Oh, gosh.
Great segue.
I have started noticing things on dating apps.
Profiles.
Lots of things, yes. But I find it really interesting, and I was very surprised by this, pleasantly, but very surprised, how many men I see that have something in their profile about red hats need not apply, MAGA need not apply. And I get it, but I think it's really interesting that you have 225 characters and you use however many of them to specifically say, if you're in this subsect of people, don't come over here. I do not want to talk to you.
Do you see the opposite true?
No.
Just no MAGA.
So what I see is MAGA need not apply, or Christian
You're going to get in
conservatives.
trouble for this one.
Christian conservative as a negative?
No, they identify as Christian conservative.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So there are 2 choices that they have to make in there: what your religion is and where you identify politically. And you can say, I'm a Christian moderate, or I am a liberal Buddhist.
Protestant. Yeah.
Any of this.
Yeah.
And I tend to start reading things into it when I see one who is talking about being a Christian, which I'm hesitant about in today's day and age, that you would classify yourself as such. You can believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ and not be on board with what quote unquote Christianity is turned into currently today. And then they're identifying as conservatives on top of that. And that to me is kind of a red flag. Well, it's 2 orange flags that kind of send up.
So does that just
things for me.
automatically give you Christian nationalist?
No, it doesn't. No, it definitely doesn't. It does make me read harder and read more into the rest of the words that you're using. Not because I want to change you or I want you to be different or I want you to be on my side, but because I'm not sure how compatible I will be with you if you're talking about your perfect Sunday is going to church and being there all day, and that you want a Proverbs 31 woman, and that those are all good, fine things. Like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I don't specifically have that in my 225 characters of priorities. And if you do, you can, but I'm probably not your girl.
I thought it was interesting you were talking about it last night. Like, the only people that... Here's the thing. If you feel strongly enough about a political affiliation to put it in your dating app bio, you're probably not for me. Like, my response to, like, what is your political affiliation would be, fuck them. Like, that would be my response to it.
And if that's
your response as well, we'll probably get along great. But if it's, I am a Republican or I am a Democrat or a liberal or a conservative or a progressive, there's so much tribalism within people who loudly proclaim that these
label
days.
Themselves.
label themselves as such these days, that I'm not really interested.
So I asked
Which is
Cole,
so interesting because we've talked about how those labels can be so misinterpreted.
Because they
take
are so misinterpreted and you identify as such still,
Yeah.
I'm not really interested.
which is why I have a hard time with Christian conservatives.
Mhm.
You've
Sure.
chosen that label, and that makes me nervous.
The conservative part, I get. The religion part,
If you were
there-
a moderate
spectrum.
Christian, okay, fine. If you didn't put anything in that you were a Christian, you didn't even have a political affiliation listed, okay, fine. It's when they're paired together that I begin to get nervous. It's not independently at all, either way. But when they're paired together, I, Callie, get nervous.
Because you've perceived that as a closed-mindedness?
No, oh gosh, I'm gonna get in so much freaking trouble this episode.
Yep.
No, I, Callie, tend to define people who it's June of 2026. So Donald Trump has been in office for 1 year and 5 months. If you still to this day seeing everything that has gone on under this administration and around the world and in this country and in our neighborhoods and at our banks and gas pumps and grocery stores, if you are still proud of this Make America Great Again movement and the man that is leading our country in the White House, I don't know that we have a ton of conversation to be had.
I don't think that's fair to equate that to putting Christian and conservative in your dating profile personally. Because I know Christian conservatives who are not in support of the current administration.
Agreed. And that's my point. If you put that you are a Christian conservative and then you've got a Trump sticker in the background and you're still proud of that and you've put it on your dating profile, I'm skeptical. I said to Cole last night, if you are a recovering MAGA and you can say, hey, this is what I thought I was voting for, I was wrong. I don't like what is going on. I don't consider myself MAGA, even though that is the way that I voted. I don't consider myself MAGA for what it has turned into today. Okay, cool. But if you do.
So if you saw a dating profile that said recovering MAGA, would you?
And still had Christian conservative in his bio, I would consider other factors.
Okay.
He's not immediately being counted
That
out.
sounds fair to me.
I'm considering other factors. I'm open to that. If you had on there that Donald Trump is the best president that we've ever had in the history of everything,
Bye.
and I'm a Christian conservative, swipe left. That's a no for me. Because I think that those people who can't even say, hey, I was wrong about this, because in the grand scheme of things, MAGA is a pretty pimple on an elephant's ass, right? If you can't admit frustration even with this, I would go out on a limb to say that we'd be hard pressed to find something that you are willing to concede any ground on.
You feel like there wouldn't be any way to have a conversation, an open conversation, and
Not a
an open.
productive conversation. You have already decided. These are the answers. Nothing else is even worth discussing. If
Oh, that's
nothing else is
interesting.
even worth discussing, then what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
Again,
What's the
you
point
can
of
Something
the
other than
relationship?
politics. For the
Fine.
love of God.
Fine.
You don't want to spend your evening doing that, boo.
Which we then went and talked about apolitical. That's another option in there. And
It
Cole,
doesn't bother me.
we came up with two definitions or two avenues that apolitical could take. Do you want to give those to us, Cole? Do you remember them?
Yeah, sort of. So like I would almost consider myself apolitical, but
Not because you don't care about the outcome and the impact and what's going on. You're still
so
engaged.
Going back, I'm not really apolitical. I'm the fuck 'em party. Apolitical is like completely uninterested in politics, and still that doesn't really bother me. Like
Head buried in sand.
I don't even know that it necessarily means that. I think that's a little unfair. A little.
Maybe. It could be.
I think it could be. And so again, I'm going to then take everything else in conjunction with that and look at a wider set of information and data before I make that determination to move forward or not.
So just real quick, I do think this is the perfect segue to talk about this, because this is another part of this conversation that we talked about last night. And this, Callie, I feel like is maybe as much of a difference between the way you and I think as it is between like progressive and conservative in modern politics. But like, there are people who believe it is society's responsibility to make sure that society as a whole is happy. There are
Collectively, we
also
are all
people who
responsible.
believe that each individual is responsible for their own happiness. And one of the questions that Callie asked to that is like, is that the difference between Republicans and Democrats?
And your
And it's a
answer?
good question.
Because think about it. Your quote unquote stereotypical, again, very broad definition here for a Democrat is that society is responsible for the happiness of everyone in society. We can all do this. We're going to share this burden. We're going to make
Big
it for
government.
everybody. We're going to take care of everybody. Everybody's going to be okay. We got this. We're going to do this as one big collective unit. And then you've got your kind of stereotypical Republican. Again, really broad here. But the purpose of that ideology is that each individual is responsible for their own happiness,
Their own success.
their own success.
That
All
too.
of it.
Know that it has anything to do with happiness.
Contentness.
Destination.
Okay. I'll go there.
And
And just because I'm curious, where do each of you fall on that line?
I am responsible for me and mine.
I don't fall in one or the other. I think that there's a shared burden that we each have responsibility for.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that.
I think that there has to be a meeting of the minds.
I think it is a combination of group and individual
Sure.
working towards a goal.
Yes. The
But,
destination
like, it's not
is
up to
the
me to
same.
make sure that the people in New York are happy with their situation.
The destination is the same. It's just the way in which we get there. And so I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. And again, super broad strokes here. But we started talking about, like I just said then, I fall more in the middle. Some of it is me, some of it is us. And so currently on my dating profile, I have a moderate. And one of the things, like, because I was like, I feel like if you happen to be a Christian conservative who's open for conversation, like a moderate isn't super scary. Okay, we can have this conversation. I
Remember this
think
part
that
now.
but Cole brought it up. He goes, Callie, I was like, okay, like this is productive for me. This makes sense. I align with this line of thinking. And he goes, Callie, what if you thought about it as these MAGA guys see you and they're like, oh, she's not super committed to the cause. We can flip her.
Yeah, what if it makes her a target? Because she's not the enemy, so maybe she could be an ally.
Yeah.
And that's on
Close
both
enough.
of the extreme ends of the spectrum.
Yes. So now I can't say anything. I'm just going to have to scrap the whole thing.
No more dating for you.
So much pressure. I'm
Or you
gonna
could
go
just
live
not
in the
date
grocery
anyone who
store.
has any sort of political affiliation in their dating profile.
I think that that's where, to me, I want to know more. Because
So go on a date and talk about it.
which I'm fine with and I'm doing fine. But if there's nothing in your dating profile, it's not counting you out for me. But it is important to me that we can have conversations like this that are weird and all over the place.
Agree.
Like, that's important to me. If you were so apolitical that nope, we're not talking about politics, Callie. We're not doing that.
Surely
wouldn't
there's
go for
something
that.
you could talk about other than politics.
Sure, but I don't want to have
Could
to
you date someone who
censor
just
myself.
doesn't vote?
No.
Really? Oh, I totally could.
It blows my mind. Why? How? Ridiculous. I'm so angry. This is your one. I don't care how you vote, but go do it. You have your voice. Use it. Why not?
But I can use my voice without casting a ballot. There are other ways to have an impact than checking a box on a piece of paper and stuffing it in a box,
Maybe
running
even
it
more
through a scanner.
successfully. Yeah.
What's it hurting?
What's it hurting to not?
What's it hurting to? Because it's certainly helping.
Exactly.
It's helping. It's productive because it is.
I mean, you say that, Callie, but we ourselves have multiple times talked about if what? You have a
What
30%
if I live
chance
in a
of anything
district
that
that's
you
so
vote for.
gerrymandered, it doesn't matter who I vote for. We know who's going to win.
We got to vote those fuckers out
How?
by voting.
We can't.
Oh, God.
They've already rigged the game.
Man, y'all covered a gambit of things.
This
We're
ain't
hardly
nothing.
scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll wrap it up with this because this is about where we wrapped it up last night. I wonder, going back to the judgmental sides of us and what we're reading into different people that we come in contact with and how we feel about their political affiliation or not, or lack thereof, like all of these things. I believe that there's a direct correlation between your level of judgment with your level of fear.
I do believe there can and oftentimes is a correlation. I do not necessarily think that it is a direct or a perfect correlation.
I think there are exceptions to every rule, but generally the correlation is in tandem with worry and fear. Generally.
Explain what you mean.
You judge someone because you're afraid of them for something.
Yeah. I don't want to see two men kissing on television because that makes me feel this certain kind of way, or I think that's or what if I don't hate it?
Yeah. Or I don't know how to respond to it.
I'm going to have to
Then
address these
don't.
emotions.
Shocker,
Yeah.
you don't have to respond to everything. You can ignore stuff.
Yes, but I think that that's when our brains go into panic mode. And so all of those worries and fears that we have, I am afraid of liking seeing two men kiss on TV. Therefore, I have to be upset watching about two men kissing on television.
I get what you're saying. And I do think that that is true for some people, a lot of people.
I think a
But I
very,
don't think
very
it is
healthy
true
majority.
for enough people for it to be the rule. I think there are too many exceptions for it to be the rule.
But I think it's probably a huge influence. I mean, think about,
Sure.
It's like a
pro-life,
rubber band.
pro-choice.
They're all tied. Some is more and less taut,
Yeah.
but it's all still tied together.
Yeah.
Until you bring in narcissism, and that was a whole mess.
I mean, narcissism may even just be an exaggeration of that, the extreme of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are y'all ready for a weird thought? Because I really enjoyed this weird thought this week.
Okay.
Yeah, let's hear it. Because
Okay.
we haven't had any weird thoughts up to this
That's
point.
exactly what I was thinking. Nothing weird about this one.
The penultimate weird thought this week. I always get weekly articles from a colleague that I used to work with at the company that I am in. And he sends fantastic articles every week. So shout out to Jared. This one is an excerpt from an article from Matt Levine from last week. And he's talking about the different types of companies that are out there. And it's a little tongue in cheek because the way he starts it off is there are 6 kinds of companies: artificial intelligence companies, companies that will benefit from AI, companies that will be disrupted by AI, Halo companies that will be unaffected by AI, random cannabis and crypto karaoke or sneaker companies that are hastily pivoting to AI to get a stock price lift. And the 6th type of company is that one Japanese food additive company, Ajinomoto Corp, which discovered umami and invented monosodium glutamate, which led to an expertise in chemistry that made it the leading maker of a certain sort of insulated polymer film that is essential to packaging advanced semiconductors and thus, quote, one of the most critical materials technologies underpinning global AI infrastructure, but who doesn't like to make a big deal about it because it is focused on making food more flavorful, and the AI stuff is just something that happened.
My gosh.
Isn't that nuts? Everybody's panicking about this except this one company who stumbled into being a hinge point, a necessity.
For those of you who don't know, The shoe companies that he's referencing is the shoe company Allbirds, which earlier this week sold all of their intellectual property for roughly $40 million, said that they were transitioning to become an AI infrastructure company, and lifted their stock price like 7 times. Their market cap went from like 21 million to 140 something in a day because they sold their intellectual property and said that they're an AI company now. They make shoes, sustainable shoe, or they made
Tennis
sustainable
shoes.
shoes.
Yeah.
I was just fixing to say, didn't you say this was a sneaker company?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. In a world full of Allbirdses, strive to be an Ajinomoto. That's the kind of AI trade that I am interested in. Yeah, I just kind of ended up here. I make food.
Oh my gosh. What a random.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
The last little bit of this excerpt, Matt goes in and he says, I want an exchange traded fund of accidental AI companies. I don't know if they perform better or worse than regular AI companies, or for that matter, fake AI companies, but they are aesthetically pleasing. So I think whoever it is that makes ETFs should lock down the ticker symbol OOPS or OPS and let's get an index for the OOPS index, accidental AI companies.
That's funny.
All right, Mom. What's our good news this week? Let's get out of here.
Well, I'm just telling you, I'm not even sure. This is such a sweet little story, but I mean, y'all are so far off somewhere.
We need it after this.
Yeah, bring us back.
Okay. This is more grounding. This is reality based. So, and I say that. Have you ever heard of an otter doing search and rescue?
Yeah, this is coming back to reality. This is grounding. Let's do otter search and rescue.
Listen to me.
Search and research.
This Michael Hatzel was the president of Peace River Canine Search and Rescue. Yes, you heard that correctly, canine. But he had been reading an article about otters and decided, I want to check this out a little bit. So that brings in Splashy. Splashy is a 2-year-old otter that he went to see because he'd been working search and rescue, but dogs don't do well underwater. But otters can be trained really well, and they can smell underwater, and so they can be trained to do search and rescue. So, I mean, really, Splashy has become a little celebrity in his own right because he's been doing search and rescue. He found a weapon at the bottom of a lake from a 25-year-old murder. He can work in fresh water or salt water. This one was really interesting. He found DNA on a brick at the bottom of a lake that was used in a case. And so he's got an otter doing water search and rescue services because dogs can't do it. The only caveat is, depending on where he's at, he has to have kind of a patrol around him to watch out for predators, otter predators. So like alligators, you don't want to be in the swamp with an alligator because they might
eat your otter.
They might grab your otter.
Your rescue otter.
To do. So, I mean, but he can work in conjunction.
These cohorts with him.
Oh, they're called otter spotters.
That's cute.
That is cute. You've got dogs on land and otters by sea.
Yeah.
I wonder if otters are related to Miasis.
We are getting out of here. Goodbye. Have a good week. I love you guys.
Bye. I love y'all.